Everything just changed as multiple reports reveal that the Calgary Flames are looking to move star defenseman Rasmus Andersson. Plus, they have also put some calls in for a league young star. There's so much to break down in this episode, so you're not going to want to miss this episode of Hattrick HQ. But before we dive into all that, we just want to say we're on the road for 17,000 subscribers here before draft day. So if you're a big NHL fan, you want to stay up to date on everything around the league and around the Calgary Flames and Buffalo Sabres, make sure you go down below and hit that subscribe button. With that said, we got some big news coming out of Calgary, Alberta today, where the Calgary Flames, per Elliot Friedman, are listening to offers from Rasmus Andersson, saying Rasmus Andersson is ready for something new, saying the Flames are willing to deal him only if they get what they want, and there is significant interest in this player. And obviously, when you're talking about a guy like Rasmus Andersson, there is going to be a lot of interest around this player. He has become such a strong right-handed shot defenseman, probably one of the best in the NHL to date, and is really proven to be one of the best two-way guys at that position in the league today. So obviously there's going to be a big value return here for the Calgary Flames to come, but they also do say from David Pagnotta, another report saying the Flames will listen to Rasmus Andersson on Rasmus Andersson if there isn't any progress towards a new extension before the end of the month. And obviously he's not an RFA anymore after this season. He will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of next season, so they're going to need to put an extension into place, but the Flames don't want to catch themselves in a position where they were before with guys like Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, RIP, who they kind of just walk for free agency. I mean, Johnny Gaudreau left for free agency. They did get some return for Matthew Tkachuk, maybe not the return that they did want at that time. So they're familiar with that scenario, and they want to see capitalize and get the best value that they can for this player. And looking at some early extension numbers for Rasmus Andersson, as I just bring up his stats here, he had 31 points this season in 81 games, and he had 36 hits, 196 blocks. Like I said, this is a guy who is great on the penalty kill. This is a guy who is great on the power play. He is an all-around defenseman, and at the right side, the right-hand shot, which is a very big need in today's league, this is something that you definitely need to look at when talking about defense and talking about value of players. And like I said, getting into those early numbers for that extension, we do see the most probability here from Scotia Stat Cards saying that they're looking at an 8-year deal around $8.8 million AAV. That is a lot of money. A lot of money that the Flames do have, but it is definitely a hard decision to make if you are the Calgary Flames front office, because at the end of this deal, as he's 29 right now, that'll put him at 37, maybe even 38. So that is a long term to bring in a guy like Rasmus Andersson. Yes, it is worth it because I think he is probably one of the best right-handed shot defenders in the league today. But going forward, to see what you could get in a potential trade for this guy, this is if they traded him today before the season starts. This is some initial value we're seeing that says, look, we would either see picks and prospects, which we would likely fetch a first-round pick, plus a solid NHL/D prospect. Clubs like Buffalo and Dallas are potential fits, which we're going to get to in just a little bit, but they also say it could be a one-for-one swap, pairing with a young forward like Maverick Bourque. They may risk insufficient cap certainty unless extensions lies. So, you could swap him out for another league star, and, maybe one team needs a defense on that left side, but they have a surplus of forwards or something like that. They can make a deal work out there. But the one I'm interested in is definitely the one with Buffalo, and this is if it does carry on throughout the season. If they say, hey, we're going to ride with our guy Rasmus Andersson, hopefully we can go out and make some noise this season and try to compete for a playoff spot. But come trade deadline, if they're not in that situation and they need to trade him out, or they're going to lose him for nothing, that value is obviously going to drop to a mid-round pick and a prospect due to short term and no certainty that he will extend with the team that he is getting traded to. You know what I mean? So it is definitely interesting looking at the D core without him there. There obviously is a big core, but I do think trading him out is I necessarily think a good idea for the Calgary Flames. I think they're kind of heading into a retool where they kind of want to get a bunch of young players and move their older players out, or just kind of retool the old guys into some younger prospects. And obviously they have a big guy coming up here in JJ Peterka on that right side. I'm a big fan of this guy. I've been following this guy all throughout his junior career. I think he's an exceptional defenseman on that right side, and I think he is going to be the next Erik Karlsson. I got full faith in this guy that he's going to go out and be a stud defenseman in this league. So having Rasmus Andersson signed for 8 more years on that side is only going to stunt JJ Peterka. He's not going to be able to get those consistent minutes. Yes, he would still be playing second or third pairing, but this is a guy who definitely deserves to quarterback an offense, quarterback a power play. So moving Rasmus Andersson out in that instance frees, it up for JJ Peterka. Maybe it does add a little bit more pressure onto him to be that good of a player off the rip, but I do think it is a better option for them to get rid of this older player, get him onto maybe a Stanley Cup contending team or a younger team that is trying to get into the playoff hunt, to then get a forward back in return, get a good pick back in return that you can use to flip for something else later in the season. But moving on to that trade I did mention with Buffalo, as Frank Cervelli said on Sportsnet 960 that the Flames have called about Sabres forward JJ Peterka, and this is a trade that interests me very much, because I think JJ Peterka, obviously he wants out of Buffalo right now. We've heard multiple reports on that. Buffalo saying maybe we're not ready to ship him out. That's kind of the vibe around there. But I think if the Flames do come calling with a Rasmus Andersson trade, I think they could get Peterka and a pick here. There's no doubt about that. Would it be a first-round pick? I don't know. I think maybe that might be a little bit too much value going back in Calgary's way, but I definitely think it's not out of the realm of possibility. We've seen crazier trades happen in the NHL. I think you could definitely see a first-round pick in JJ Peterka, or maybe the Flames add more on their side. I mean, I believe they had 2 first-round picks for this year. I don't believe they have their own, but maybe they could add a pick in, and they could maybe ship out Andersson on a first-round pick, maybe get Byram and Peterka packaged up coming back the other way. I think this is definitely the way Craig Conroy and the Calgary Flames would go. Obviously, they're already out there calling on this player, so there's interest on that side, and it only makes sense. I mean, this is a guy who has really had some great seasons in Buffalo. I mean, this year, just bring it up for you guys a little bit closer, looking at some extension numbers, but this season, he did have 68 points in 77 games, almost getting up to that point per game on a team that, was a little bit less productive this year. I mean, they have some great guys there in Buffalo. There's no doubt about that. Tage Thompson, etc. The list goes on for great players down there. But obviously, at 23 years old, you're going to get this guy at a 6 to 8 year deal. They're saying it most likely 6 here, around $7.25 million, which, if you look at some comparable contracts, we see Quentin Byfield, Seth Jarvis, Brandon Hagel, all guys that have signed similar deals. That is exactly the ballpark I'm putting him in here. I definitely think he's 100% worth that to this Calgary Flames team. And if it's me, I'd rather go out and spend that money that I was going to spend on Andersson on a young player like Peterka, because this guy is the next up-and-comer winger in this league. I think getting him out of Buffalo and getting him onto a team with some more veterans in there, like, Jonathan Huberdeau, like Nazem Kadri, and all the great leaders and veterans that the Flames do have, will only help this guy's career, and will make him a better player for that. Looking at, this WAR chart that we see from Scotia Stat Cards as well, he's not the best defensive forward, there's no doubt about that, but his offensive game is unreal. I mean, looking at this, goals, secondary assists, expected goals, power play, offensive impact, all hitting the outer line there, putting him in offensive WAR at 2.35, and if you see in that fine print, the average WAR for an offensive forward, or average forward WAR is 0.56, so he is almost 4 times better than the average forward when it comes to offense. That is what you're getting with this guy. You know what you're getting with Peterka. It is that pure offense. Will he, maybe stumble defensively at times? Yes, but he is still young and he can develop that game. I definitely do think that he can. I really like this trade for the Calgary Flames. I mean, looking at what their top 6 would look like with JJ Peterka in it, I think you immediately put him on the top right wing. He has played both sides. He's dabbled in center as well during his time in the league, so we can kind of play all up and down this lineup wherever they want to plug him in here. I think plugging him in on this top line with Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau would really refresh this line and add, give these older players like Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau, who are now in like their early 30s, will give them that young guy who's just chomping at the bit to do what he can to help this team be successful. I love this trade. It would suck to see Rasmus Andersson go because I really like him. I think he's a great defenseman in this league. But I mean, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, if he is looking to go and is looking for a fresh start, then you need to trade and get what you can for him. So maybe you don't get too big of a return for him, but I definitely think getting JJ Peterka would be a great starting point for them. Want to hear your guys' thoughts on that down below. Are you keeping Andersson for that eight years, or would you rather go out and get JJ Peterka? I think this guy would fit into this team. I think there's a lot of players in this free agency that the Calgary Flames will be sought after. I think they're going to try to get some veterans to kind of build and remold this lineup into a playoff team. I think the starting point is definitely going out and getting a young star for your team and then building around what they have and maybe getting an extra defenseman if they do trade out Rasmus Andersson. But want to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think the Flames off-season plans look like. Love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I've been your host, KC. Keep your stick on the ice.